Cool.
quite a bit of overlap. Um,
I wasn't kidding. I feel like two times.
but lots of opportunity for collaboration, obviously. Fantastic. Thank you so much. So we're going to go over to our final presentation in this block on entrepreneurship. We're going to hand it over to Jared and Sylvia from GAB-On.
Yeah, yep. Good. Good morning. Thank you for having us. I'm Sylvia Hall.
I'm Jared Hall. We're co-founders of GAB-On.
I think we're just going to pull our screen up here. Rob, we are coming from Rhode Island, so it was great to hear that your dad was at St. George. We're about 20 minutes away from that school. We were married in Newport, Rhode Island, so very close to our heart.
Beautiful part of the world.
Awesome.
It really is, yeah. So for complete transparency, I'll start with saying that Jared and I, we're not educators and we're not researchers, but we are a couple with vast experience in business development and sales and international marketing and sales. But most proudly, we are the parents of two kids who are coming up to the ages where we're going to send them to possible me and start that journey. So Joel and Ryle will be talking to you too. But one of our kids learns differently. We found that out at an early age and just needed a little bit additional support and scaffolding to connect school to home and to connect to people. And so we always say that.
Can anyone mute? Can you mute if you're not presenting, please?
Yeah, there's a bit of background noise there. So upon finding out that, our son learns differently and just needed this additional support and scaffolding, we are always very excited to say that our son inspired the creation and development of GAB-On, but when we built it and as we continue to iterate, we built it for all kids. So at a super high level, this is how GAB-On works. Kids go to school every day, 6-7 hours. They experience different lessons and activities or events, and many of them, and have a really tough time remembering by the end of the day what has all happened in their day. So at certain times of the day, depending on the classroom situation, the kids will enter certain hints or reminders, 1 to 5 words, into the GAB-On platform at school. And once they enter those hints and reminders about those lessons or events or activities, it feeds in to the parent's phone at home. And we'll go into a little bit later how this looks, but when the parents receive that, they won't know what those hints or reminders mean. They're really just clues that will then have the child retrace their day and bring up that moment in their day and be able to lead a discussion at home, in the car, on the way to a sporting event, on a walk, wherever families have a few minutes to connect. So the important piece of that is the parent is hearing about the child's day, their child's perspective from their child. We built it intentionally with simplicity and consistency. It's not teacher to parent, it's student managed at home, student managed at the school and student led at home. And what we know is that these conversations, they practice reflective learning for the child, they practice communication skills, storytelling, all of these really important pieces of learning. But the big picture is that the smaller moments at school become bigger moments at home. And so we're building student agency, we're harnessing parent engagement, and we're strengthening family connections. So these are the 3 core tenets of GAB-On. Students take an active role in their education, building student agency, that's key. And families and trusted adults are able to engage in a child's education consistently outside of the school building and across all grades. And then students are having real conversation. You know, we're using technology to get kids off of technology, to have real back and forth dialogue, which has been proven to literally develop the brain, and just supports family connectedness.
Sylvia,
Yeah.
pardon me for interrupting, but I'm only seeing the front page of your slideshow.
Oh no.
Oh, no.
I'm not.
I appreciate you saying it. This has gone through several slides.
Yeah, I was thinking this is really pretty amazing, you know, off the cuff, very well organized. So I don't know if you can make it full screen too. That would help if possible. Like the present button, I guess. Yeah, perfect.
Can you see GAB-On in action there?
Yep, perfect. Thanks.
Darn.
Yeah.
Okay. We're getting clear with that too.
Yeah. I think you should be good now.
Okay. So GAB-On in action. And the kids have the experience at school. They enter GABs into the GAB-On platform at school. And then they're able to use those hints or reminders to lead the conversation at home with their families. The important piece of this is that families are hearing their child's perspective about their day from their child. There's so many teacher to parent reporting tools out there. We're really missing that the student in the loop piece of this. You know, there's three people, very important people in the relationship of teacher, parent, child. And just to touch on the core tenets of GAB-On is the student agency, the parent engagement, and the dialogue, which is such an important piece. This is using the technology to put technology down so families are eye to eye, again, having face-to-face conversations, because what we know is those smaller moments in school become big conversations at home. And what we have found actually is the conversations that start out as, this is what happened in science today, or this is what happened in math today, often lead to really important conversations with their child about what is going on in their life socially with their peers, that their child wants to talk about what's happening in the real world. What are they seeing on the news? These are really important conversations, particularly heading into the tween and teen years.
And so once we've started using GAB-On, you know, as Sylvia said, we really set it up for my guy. You know, I really wanted to have a conversation with Austin. And that was really, from an impact perspective, was just getting he and I talking, getting us engaged consistently and having really consistent conversation about his school day. But when we met up with Dr. Nukula, Dr. Rovine, Dr. Danilchek, and then John Gamba, we started learning about, well, if you're having these consistent conversations, did you know it leads to better mental health? It leads to better cognitive growth. It leads to social development. And that was the beginning of our engagement with the UPenn Graduate School of Education team, was better understanding what this parent engagement actually does for the child, but also what it does to the family. And the scaffolding that it puts in place that Sylvia was talking about. And that was a real mind-blowing experience for us. Was the impact of these conversations was far greater than we knew, neurologically, social, emotional skills, and what that does for helping children be college workforce and life ready. Really getting kids life ready to have conversations. So many kids are glued to their screens right now. How do we get them talking with their family? So one of the most important influences in any child's life is their family, their parents, and their teachers. And we're helping to bridge that gap and make those more consistent conversations. But as we learned from Dr. Nukula and the team, what this did, the other part that he brought up was possibility, the awareness and exploration of possibilities for some of the students. Because as Sylvia said, some of the conversations we've had with our guy were pretty amazing. And when Dr. Nukula brought up this concept to us, I said, let me go back out to talk to some of the people who have been using GAB-On and get their experiences as well. So this slide right here, we're going to talk about some of the actual examples of when possibilities were identified and then what happened with those possibilities. And so what I just pulled up right here is, this is what's sent home to the parent. When a kid enters what we call a GAB, they choose what topic they want to talk about in school. So this GAB was by my son, Austin, and he chose from a drop-down menu, science. And then he wrote in robot. And so here comes the engagement part. When I see that in the, we were actually driving to welding. He and I weld as a hobby together. We were driving to welding in the car, and I pulled out my GAB-On app, opened it up, and I saw this GAB, and I said, Austin, robots, what's that all about? And here's what's interesting, is as a dad, I saw that we're on our way to welding. And in my context, I said, okay, he's probably gonna go build a robot at welding today. What it turned into was a conversation about bringing, he wants to, in terms of what he wants to do is from a career perspective, he said, Dad, it's not about that robot that I'm going to build. It's about the robots I want to help bring consciousness to in AI. I want to help robots understand their world that they're in, the context of it, the outside world, the other systems that it works with. Now, my son's a freshman in high school. He's never talked about this stuff before. And here we are driving to welding class. He's talking about bringing consciousness to AI. I mean, it was mind blowing what would happen in this conversation. Of course, I went into, well, then you got to start studying psychology, AI, computer science. You got to get your master's. You got to get your doctorates. And he said, Dad, hold on a second. From a student agency perspective, he said, Dad, let me just get my head around what this means. I want to do this, but I got to learn about it. And so now it's part of the family conversation. We do walks every day and we talk about GABs in the mornings. And the second day after this came up, he said, hey, Dad, I read a really cool article about AI in the military and how special operations is using it for identification of movement of troops. But he started to learn about this, and he was using his agency, his self-awareness to go explore something. And so it was really exciting to see this possibility now emerge into something that could be real. And so now a different example. This is a friend of mine who I reached out to, and he originally started GAB-On kind of reluctant. He said, I know my guys really well. I spent a lot of time with him. He's a scout troop leader. His older son is a Eagle Scout, younger son's a budding Eagle Scout. So they're very engaged. And he told me about it. I told him about Possibility Network, what we're working on. He said, that's interesting. I was talking to Pete, and he came home with a GAB, and it was labeled other, and it said car didn't blow up. And my friend said, the car project, what a distraction that is for him. I wish he'd just focus on what he's interested in, which is building computers. But in the conversation that he had with his son, what he found out was how central this 1967 Mustang rebuild is to his son. This is the center of his orbit. And now what the son did is he turned that project into a senior project. And this is what one of the grades he's going to get, some of the credits he's going to get in high school is going to be about this project itself. So now the possibility of exploring this has become much bigger than it would have been based on what my friend understood. So it opened up this child's world, but opened up the conversation between the parent and the child to be something completely different than what it was before. Now it's part of the conversation in the family, and the family is now working on the car together. And another example, this son his name is Tim, and his GAB was about that he sent home was science and nothing. Again, this dad thought, oh, science. This son loves biology, but his grades have been really struggling. I wonder what this GAB is going to be about. What it turned into was the son said, I love biology, but I don't like this biology class. I'm bored. I still want to be a doctor, but I need a bigger challenge. I need to figure out something that really challenges me and gets me back into biology, back into sciences. And what the son brought up was, hey, Dad, I'm really interested in studying DNA. I've been doing my own research on DNA on YouTube, and I'm really into it. So what the father found out was, although the kid was struggling in biology class, he was spending most of his time researching DNA, what it is, how to get into that field of study. And now that's part of their lexicon in the family about talking about DNA exploration for that child. So when Dr. Nucketer brought the idea of possibility to us, we thought, we're a conversation app. We help drive consistent conversations. But these consistent conversations can lead to so much more. And then they drive the conversation, and they can help the parent and the child work together to developing a career, developing awareness, developing something that's really core to them. And when they find that core, so much else around their orbit starts going much better because they're able to ground themselves in something that's interesting. Now, from a GAB-On perspective, we built this and started thinking about a family. And the family in our situation was our son and the mom and dad. But what we're looking at studying more is the network. Now, right, we've talked about 5, Impossible Me, and you're talking about the mentors and the network you can build. And we're talking about kids probably 4th grade to maybe 8th to 10th grade, typically who'd be using GAB-On. And we're looking to explore to find out what influence and what impact the network can have on this child. The mom, the dad, and I have plural here because some family scenarios have multiple moms, multiple dads with step parents, and different dynamics for families, but also different mentors, different grandparents, relatives, aunts, uncles, guidance counselors. We're working with the military right now, military families, and they talk about their web of support, that when a parent is deployed, possibly in war, that they really rely on a broader network. And we think, well, what does that broader network have from an influence perspective on that child? What possibilities can that child explore through this broader network? What can this help? How can this help them be college life and workforce ready? So we're really starting to move from just the parent-child, the parent-child dynamic to a broader network perspective, and studying what does this mean? What impact can we have on the child by including other people and having we call them GAB-versations with the student. So that's what we're working on right now. And of course, we're very involved with the UPenn team.
So privileged to be working with this genuine and brilliant team, and everybody knows them now, and sharing them, clearly sharing them with possible me and 5 and others. But we've just learned so much from working with this team, and are able now, as we move into a fall launch, to begin to focus on our research to practice approach, and knowing that we're in the best of hands with our partnership. So thank you, Mike, Andy, and John, very much. And for introducing us to the other entrepreneurs here today, because I think we'll be reaching out to you for both personal and professional reasons. Yes. So many synergies. There's so many synergies across it. It's really just supporting the child at each stage. And it seems like we've all got a hand at a different stage. And I'm just really excited to see the others work and see our work continue.
Andrew Babson, before you take us to the next step, I just want to say to Sylvia and Jared, I recommend you do not say you're not educators any longer. Educators. That was great.
No, the past 2 days, it's been very humbling to listen to everybody, but so much learning. So thank you.
Fabulous stuff. Andrew, you want to take us forward?
Sure.